Hello, it is Monday, July 4th, 2022. I'm Chris Bremo and welcome back to the New York Times Crossword Daily Solve. It's a Monday puzzle today, so should be a relatively approachable themed puzzle, and presumably at least a more approachable theme than yesterday's. I noticed in the Daily Solve Discord chat server, quite a few people were confused or a bit irritated by the theme in yesterday's puzzle, because apparently on some platforms the note, and I think I should have remembered this because I used to solve the crossword on the phone until I started doing the series. The note that in yesterday's puzzle actually was the explanatory passage for the whole theme doesn't show by default. You have to actually go to a separate page to see it. So I can very much understand why people were irritated by that if they missed it entirely and then had to switch back and forth between different pages to get to it. So today shouldn't have anything like that. We'll have to see what's in store for us today, but it should be simpler. So this simpler edition of the Daily Solve has been brought to us by David Innes, Josh Lucas, and, as always, the inestimable Hood Monster, the invaluable Timothy Mark, the inimitable Connor O'Neill, and the infallible Cynthia Toms. And so thank you to the 6 of them, benefactors of the Daily Solve Patreon campaign, for directly supporting this channel and helping make this series a sustainable part of my daily work, for which I'm very grateful. And thank you to everybody who has backed the Patreon campaign and therefore also helped sustain this channel. I do very much appreciate it. And for doing so, in return, you'll get access to all of the bonus videos that have gone up on the Patreon channel to date, as well as the new ones that go up each week, such as the most recent monthly New York Times bonus crossword, which this month was themed for July, themed after International Joke Day, which apparently occurred on July 1st. So it was well, as I always do on those videos, I tabulate the clues and themes to see the clues and answers to see if more than 50% of them actually were theme related, and there was a surprising result this time, I would say. So you'll check that out if you're a Patreon patron. Okay, do subscribe to the channel as well if you've enjoyed these videos, and let's get on to Monday's crossword. This is, as I say, a Monday crossword, of course. So a themed crossword constructed by Bruce Haight. I definitely recognize the name Bruce Haight. He's done, I would say, over 50 puzzles for the New York Times, and it was edited, as always, by Will Short. So let's start solving. French fashion monogram. This is a bit of a standby. I haven't seen it very often recently, but YSL for Yves Saint Laurent. I'm sure I said that terribly, but that is a French fashion monogram. Threaten as a little dog might. Yap at or yip at, maybe? Yap at seems a bit more likely. Yes, and if you broke a fast, you ate. You stopped fasting, or you ate breakfast. Van Gogh's The Blank Night. Van Gogh, Van Gogh, I know they're both wrong, but that's the way it's stated. It's commonly said in the US and the UK, so I'm not going to make a further attempt beyond that. And The Starry Night, anyway. It's one of his famous paintings. Comic actress Jones, formerly of 32 Down. Leslie Jones is a comic actress, and was she from SNL? That seems like the most... Oh, yes. NBC comedy show in brief. SNL must be. There we have it. Let's see. Should we look at these crosses or we should look up here? Let's look up here. Completely lose it without. I don't know. You could wig out. You could... I'm not seeing it. Law enforcement organization. Could be the FBI. I mean, it could be probably any number of things. Oh, freak out. Freak out and FBI is probably it. Campaign for office, you ran for office. London's land would be England, as I sit here in London. And boxing weight with a limit of 118 pounds. Well, I definitely wouldn't have known this number, but I've heard of bantamweight, so that must be the answer. Bantamweight. That is very light, isn't it? Okay, rose petal fragrance. I don't know. It's not aster, which is a compounds that can be used in perfume, but it doesn't seem to be that. What about this? Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. There we go. This looks like passing, doesn't it? Handing responsibility to someone else. Passing the buck? No. Not sure, but passing these seems correct. Oh, is this attar rose petal fragrance? What is this? Soothing skin balm, an aloe something? Official plant of the New York Times crossword, aloe? Not sure though. Apes, cats, question mark. It's a funny phrase, just two animal names in a row. But of course, apes is also a verb. Apes, cats. Mules, maybe? As in you imitate cats? Or meows would be more likely, sorry. It's so funny, actually. Mules is, mew or mule is so much more common in the crossword than meow, even though meow is so much more common in spoken language, in English anyway, to refer to a cat sound, that I just went straight to the crossword one. But meows actually fits better here, I think. And looks like it works with aloe, in fact. Protection for an outdoor reception. A tent, maybe? And major accomplishment in baseball or horse racing. Oh, Triple Crown. Yes, certainly heard of that, and horse racing in particular. Not sure what the baseball meaning is. Soaks up could be sops up. And folk singer Guthrie is Arlo Guthrie. There we go. All right. Son of Woody Guthrie, right? And adamant affirmation could be yes, sir, yes, 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 maybe. It's adamant because you're saying it twice. And a woman's name that looks like Roman numerals for 51 plus 51. Okay, well, that would be, what, 102? That doesn't seem like it's possible. I must be doing this wrong. L is 50, so is it L-I? Oh, I see. L-I-L-I. In other words, it's not the result of adding 51 plus 51. It's representing 51 two times. So L-I, Lily, there we go. So this isn't yes, sir. It's yes, I do, or yes, I am, or something like that. Yes, I do looks better with the crosses. River of Central Germany. This is a bit obscure for a Monday puzzle, I would say, but I think it's the Ader. More is opposite, more and less. Straightforward enough. Mozart's Così fan tutte is an opera by Mozart. Ader, that's so funny. This is the kind of thing that comes up in cryptic crosswords, is specific European river names. If you want to solve cryptic crosswords, at least if you want to solve British cryptic crosswords, learn the learn all the major rivers in Europe of, I don't know, I'd say roughly 4 letters or fewer. Probably would be a good limit. The Lee, the X, the D. X and D sound like letters, but those are in fact words, EX and DE. One way to deal with a pain in the neck. One way to deal with a pain in the neck. I'm not sure offhand. Actor Jared Leto, about whom people have extremely strong opinions, I've noticed. Trillion prefix. Is trillion peta or is it tera? Which one is terabyte? Or petabyte? I don't know which one is which. Trillion, I'm not sure. But either one ends with an A, so we'll put that there. Lots and lots could be a ton, maybe. And Woody Blank, bartender on Cheers. Oh, I'm actually not sure. What about this? Kansas City baseball team. Kansas City Royals. I actually remember that. There we go. Very good. And so it must be terabytes as a trillion, or not bytes in particular, but that's what came to mind as a suffix for that prefix. So tera. And one way to deal with the pain in the neck. Does that help at all? Not sure. What about this? So that's the Cheers character. Oh, right. This is theme related. Sorry. One way to deal with the pain in the neck. New York City. So that's being pointed to by our revealer here, which is going to be our theme, our kind of central theme answer. So New York City landmark suggested by the ends of 17, 22, 34, and 50 across. Something crown. Is it going to be the Empire State Building and crown has to do with empire or something like that? Not sure. That seems like we're reaching a little bit. Well, what was this? 2 interacting communities in the home of a college. Oh, that would be town and gown. Often in university towns, you refer to the kind of the townies and then the sort of entire university life from the students to the faculty as the gown. And so you have town and gown relations. So gown, okay. Probably should be able to infer what this is, but I'm not the New York City landmark, but I don't seem to be doing so, do I? All right, James Blank, author who won a posthumous Pulitzer Aggie. And country singer Morgan. Not sure about that. Historical periods are eras. Try to hit as a gnat. You could swat at a gnat. And Virginia, who wrote Mrs. Dalloway's Virginia Woolf. Free as a bank account. No fee, and no fee bank account would be free. If you threw a party for someone, you fêted them. You threw a fête from fête, celebration or party, from the French. I suppose permit could be let. If you permit something, you let it occur. And now I've seen everything, you might say, after you've solved too many of these crosswords. One of three things tried by Goldilocks. She tried 3 beds, didn't she? So in Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. One of 2 on a shirt would be a sleeve. Straightforward enough. And memos could be notes, presumably. Another relatively straightforward one, I think. Caesar's rebuke to Brutus. He said, et tu, Brute, or at least he did in the Shakespeare. Probably not in reality. There's another good reason. That, oh, I see, right, sorry. I was reading this incorrectly. So I was reading it as to say, well, it's not just for that reason, there's another good reason. Whereas someone, this is, in fact, there's another good reason is someone who has presented the reason and someone said, now there's another good reason. That too, they're referring to the one thing that has already been said. So it really depends on which word you stress, I suppose. Conan of late night TV, Conan O'Brien, late night talk show host in the US. And this Greek letter is it psi or phi? Why can't I remember? How embarrassing. It starts with a P in either case. I think it's psi. Does that work here? Air conditioner measures for short. Oh, BTUs maybe? British thermal units? Maybe? Program that spits out spam. Oh, a bot. Bot, some kind of automated application. This little piggy is a toe in the children's nursery rhyme. So maybe this is BTUs. Let's put it in and see if that works here. When it comes down to it, at bottom, as in the bottom line, at bottom. That's sort of a strange way to say it, but that might be right. This looks like aspirant or something. Oh, aspirin. One way to deal with the pain in the neck, right? Aspirant wouldn't be spelled right anyway. So one way to deal with the pain in the neck, aspirin tablet, painkiller tablet. And then what is this? Steadiness as in leadership, a sure hand. Online source of film facts is IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. Hit the slopes. To hit the slopes is to ski. Oh, Statue of Liberty. Oh, okay. Sorry, we'll come back to that in a moment, but let me just finish off this corner of the grid. Hawaii's Kona Coast, a geographical clue, and open a tab is to prepare to pay later at a bar, for instance. Okay, we're getting close, so let's just finish off these little stragglers, and then we'll look at the theme. Country singer Morgan. Lori, maybe? Bye 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 Boy Band. Boy band with NSYNC was a boy band from the early 2000s, I think, roughly. And so maybe they're late 90s as well, actually. And so on, abbreviation would be etc. And suffix with Egypt or Paris. Looks like Ian as in Egyptian or Parisian. And then Lori Morgan after all. Okay, so now let's look at this theme. Statue of Liberty. Oh, right. So the gown, the tablet, the crown, and the torch. Passing the torch, of course. Handing responsibility to someone else. I was slightly misreading this clue. I wasn't really reading it as sort of intentionally and responsibly handing responsibility over. I was thinking of it, I was reading it incorrectly as sort of abdicating, your responsibility. So passing the buck, which has more of a pejorative connotation, I guess. So yes, I should have been thinking about it this way, passing the torch. Okay, so we've described iconic elements of the Statue of Liberty, construction, the torch, her crown, her tablet, and her gown. And that is, I guess, our July 4th U.S. Independence Day theme around the Statue of Liberty. So there we go. And now let's finish off the puzzle because we are not actually done, even though I'm already reviewing the theme. Urban air pollution is smog. Comment while pulling into the driveway. I don't know. We're home, maybe? Does that work? Did the backstroke say is swam? Trifling is a mere, you could say a mere trifle, actually, to combine those two words. Intense illumination, as in old movie projectors, arc light. And that's another somewhat obscure term, I would say. That doesn't do much for me. Meh, not a big deal. And then sound of a diaphragm spasm. Hic, I guess? Suppose that's what a hiccup is? Interesting. Yeah, it's spasm in your diaphragm. That's interesting. I don't know if I'm interpreting that correctly. Anyway, business bigwig for short. It could be a CEO or a CFO or something, probably a CEO. And I think to texters would be, in my humble opinion, IMHO, and Mo, Larry, or Curly are stooges. So each one of them, because this is an or clue, we're only referring to one of the three. It's a singular answer, so single stooge. And we've learned about the stooges and their various names in some recent crosswords. Anyway, a product of Shell or ExxonMobil is oil. And I don't think I'm missing any other crosses. Oh, what about this? Oh, right, we never looked back at Woody Boyd, bartender on Cheers. There we go. Okay, so that's the character's name from the television show. I just saved myself a few seconds tomorrow reading a clue. Reading a comment, that is. And anyway, let's go ahead and put in stooge, and there's the puzzle. I would say this was maybe on the tricky side for a Monday puzzle. I mean, I think the theme was a very fitting Monday theme in that you didn't need to figure out the theme to solve any of the component parts. You don't even really need to solve it, to figure it out to solve the revealer, because the Statue of Liberty is a famous New York City landmark, so you could get that with just with crosses and light knowledge of New York City. Or I guess you don't even really need to know New York City to know the Statue of Liberty. But anyway, that was relatively straightforward. But I do think this was probably on the tough side for a Monday puzzle. I suppose they wanted to get a July 4th themed puzzle in, and that maybe softened perhaps the strictest sense of the difficulty requirements for the day in order to be able to get this themed puzzle in on the correct day. But I do think there were some things in here that were a bit tricky. I don't know, Kona, maybe Hawaii's Kona Coast. I'm not sure that's sort of universally known. Same with certainly the Ader River, wherever that was. I don't know. It just struck me as a bit of a tough one maybe today. Let me know how you felt though. It's a Monday puzzle. It's hard to say. And I will bring up the spoiler wall. And now we will discuss a few themes. Sorry, not a few themes. There's only one theme, but a few clues from yesterday's puzzle. And first off, Craig Jones explains, a syntactician is a linguist who specializes in the study of grammar and syntax. That makes sense. I knew it was syntax, but I wasn't quite sure what specific domain. And a linguist. There we go. Thank you. And Masha Leifer goes a bit deeper into that concept and says, I'm in college for linguistics now, so I was very excited to see the syntactician clue. Syntacticians are concerned not so much with meaning, which is the realm of the semantician, but rather with structure. Syntax trees are a form of representing the structure of a sentence or other utterance. The utility of this is immediately visible in cases of syntactic ambiguity. For instance, in the sentence, he said there would be an exam on Monday. It's ambiguous as to whether he said on Monday that there would be an exam on some other day, or whether he said on some other day that there would be an exam that takes place on Monday. You could draw two different syntax trees for these two meanings, in the first of which on Monday is under the verb phrase he said, and on the other of which it's under the noun phrase an exam. There we go. Very good. Thank you, Masha Leifer. Syrinx32 explains that terse, T-E-R-C-E, is, as I eventually kind of suspected, is indeed one of the prayer sessions held at certain hours and times of the day. So it is what I thought, the sort of liturgical hours used in particularly in monastic settings, but also in church services and things like this. Syrinx 32 continues, the hours are roughly counted from the rising of the sun at 6 a.m., which is why the prayer session or service held at 9 a.m. is called the terce, from Latin tertia ora, or third hour. And yes, so I think the other ones I quoted were matins and vespers. Those were the two I remember. Those are part of, I think, the what are called it's the major hours, or the something like that. And then the other ones that include terce, for instance, are the minor hours, or the little hours. So the kind of less important ones, I guess. Okay, and they differ by tradition. So in the Anglican tradition, you have evensong, for instance, which is an incredibly important part of the Anglican liturgical tradition, and many church services are at evensong, but I don't think evensong is used for that word. I don't think is used even at all in the Roman Catholic one, for instance. Anyway, okay, let's get on to the next clue here. Kathleen Quinn explains Dr. Benjamin Spock was an American pediatrician who authored Dr. Spock's Baby and Child Care, which was one of the best-selling books of the 20th century. After its initial publication in 1946, he had sold 50 million copies by the time of his death in 1998. Generations of kids were raised through their early years based on his advice. He believed in permissive child rearing, encouraging parents to be less strict or concerned about spoiling their kids. So thank you for that, Kathleen Quinn. And Old Footer says, my mother consulted his book regularly, so my brothers and I were some of the kids reared with his advice. So he, I guess, his fame preceded Mr. Spock, and then I guess his career continued well after Mr. Spock left the air. Okay, Robert Logan explains that a Ratskeller is a bar under a city hall in Germany, from Rathaus for city hall and Keller for cellar. And I looked it up because I was curious about this, because I've seen the word used before, and I guess it is a word that seems to be mainly Germany and North America, and so some North American bars have kind of adopted that name. It seems like it originally would have been, in keeping with the actual German meaning, kind of underground bars, maybe not specifically under City Hall in the North American case, but underground. But it seems like in general it's started to become used for more kind of German-style bars, maybe in general. Anyway, interesting. Thank you for that. And Reese Wolf explains regarding the Peoria being used as a metaphor for Middle America. The geographic center of the contiguous United States is in Kansas, so I was wrong about that. Will It Play in Peoria, in fact, originated from an 1890 book called $500 by Horatio Alger Jr. In the book, some actors perform in Peoria and say phrases like, we're playing in Peoria, and such. The phrases became popular with vaudeville and turned Peoria into a punchline used to mock Middle America. The phrase over the years has become limited or shortened to, will it play in Peoria, and is meant to be symbolic of how something will be accepted by general, or to put it bluntly, stupid American audiences. That's interesting. Horatio Alger, that's a funny origin for that. And what is interesting about that, I think, is that I do think to some extent it did turn into a sort of sincere political kind of, axiom or something, in the way that does often occur, where things that are introduced in a kind of, or at least become popularized in a satirical way, end up becoming used sincerely. The word meritocracy is an example of that. It was introduced as a way to suggest a kind of fictional possibility of a meritocracy and how that would actually be a terrible way to organize society. But it's become now, at this point, it's a sort of sincerely used, where that kind of thing happens all the time in language, where you get something that's used often in one way, and then it ends up becoming used in a completely different way. I mean, the phrase "a few bad apples," I think, is another good example of that. The whole point of the phrase is that a few bad apples spoil the bunch, and now it's used essentially in the complete opposite way to suggest, if there are only a few bad apples, it's not a problem. It's the complete opposite meaning of the phrase. Anyway, so thank you for that. Will It Play in Peoria has sort of flipped in its meaning. I think anyway. It could still be used in the original sense, but I've mainly heard it honestly used more sincerely. But that could just be my limited experience. Who knows? Anyway, Joe Zichterman finally will close this out with a comment about my, as usual, having missed a few crosses. Joe Zichterman points out 2 clues solved through the crosses today and not returned to. 100 across, the clue is fool, which I suspect is being used as a verb, to fool, which makes the answer con. I don't remember seeing this at all, so your explanation sounds correct, and I don't remember that one bit. And then 115 across, the clue is online crafts marketplace, and the answer is, of course, Etsy, as we've seen many times the crossword before. I don't think I ever saw that clue, and I think if I had, I would have immediately put the answer in. So I think it's safe to say I missed both of those, and thank you for catching them. And that's it. That's the last clue from yesterday's puzzle. That was a long list. And that brings today's puzzle, today's solve, and today's video to an end. So thank you so much for joining me for another edition of the Daily Solve. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll be back tomorrow for the Tuesday puzzle. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tuesday puzzle tomorrow were a bit easier than today's Monday puzzle, because I think for a Monday, that was on the tricky side. We'll have to see. So do come back and join me for that. Should be another approachable theme. And until then, please do have an excellent remainder of your Monday. Take care.